I am directing HUD Secretary Cisneros to develop, in cooperation with the most significant members of the housing industry and government at all levels, a plan to boost homeownership to an all-time high in the United States before the century is out.
That was former President Bill Clinton launching the homeowners HIP program that many say sparked the 2008 financial meltdown. Now, Reckless Endangerment is the brand new book by New York Times reporter Gretchen Morgenson. Now, she's going to join us in just a moment. Now, it pinpoints the Democratic policies and the politicians that brought it about. Now, Morgenson chronicles how Clinton's homeowners HIP initiative encouraged mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to make risky loans to people who could not repay them. Now, to facilitate these loans, Fannie and Freddie, well, they needed help from lawmakers who allowed them to toss out mortgage requirements, you know, like a good credit history, for example. So former Fannie Mae chairman Jim Johnson, Franklin Raines, both major Democratic contributors, called on their friends in Congress. On their urging, lawmakers like former Democratic Senator Chris Dodd and Democratic Congressman Barney Frank, Maxine Waters, and Greg Meeks served as Fannie and Freddie's champions in Congress. When others raised eyebrows, they responded forcefully. For example, remember this.
Let me just let you in on a surprise. Some people don't want you in business. They don't like the success that you've accomplished by putting people with decent roofs and homes and roofs over their heads. Some people just don't like that.
I don't see anything in your report that raises safety and soundness problems.
Mr. Chairman, we do not have a crisis at Freddie Mac, and in particular at Fannie Mae, under the outstanding leadership of Mr. Frank Raines.
This hearing is about the political lynching of Franklin Raines.
Now, Democratic economists serving in the Clinton and Obama administrations did much of the same. As Deputy Secretary of the Treasury in the 1990s, Larry Summers, he ordered the rewriting of a report which found that Fannie and Freddie should be privatized and should stop receiving your hard-earned tax dollars. Now, Treasury Secretary, tax cheat Tim Geithner, and former OMB Director Peter Orszag, well, they don't emerge from Gretchen Morgenson's book looking much better, and she joins me now. By the way, this book is phenomenal. I want to say that up front. There's so much information in here. We could do a whole hour special. And you have a co-author, Joshua Rosner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean.
Freddie and Fannie, Franklin Raines, the Community Reinvestment Act, all of these things together. Am I right in saying that the government forced banks and financial institutions to lessen these lending requirements so that people could get mortgages knowing that the people would never be able to repay these loans? Is that true?
The clip that you showed, Sean, at the outset of the show is absolutely what we're talking about here. Clinton said, let's get everybody together. Industry, regulators, the government, everybody was on board for this. And so, yes, it was all about expanding home ownership. This meant to people who previously had not been able to afford a home, minorities, lower income people, immigrants. Yes, it was absolutely necessary to expand to those people because we had sort of had a flat line on home ownership up until now.
Tell us about Jimmy Johnson, and especially go into great detail about Franklin Raines, and then later I think it was Jamie Gerlich. $100 million he made.
That's the report, absolutely. Now, he's important to know, Sean, because he's sort of escaped under the radar. And as the crisis developed in 2008, this person was nowhere to be seen. Jim Johnson ran Fannie Mae with an iron fist, extremely shrewd political animal, turned the company into a political machine from 1991 to 1999. Very crucial period in Fannie Mae's history because that's when they really ballooned the balance sheet, started to lead the way down in degrading the due diligence that normally gets done when you make a home loan. And he made a tremendous amount of money for himself. He also was very shrewd about buying off the academic community, about making sure he could co-opt his regulator, and that regulator would be a 98-pound weakling. Yeah. This was a very shrewd guy.
Well, you even describe how they took it from HUD and moved it to congressional oversight in a way. But you also talk about the incestuous relationship. Like you describe an instance where Barney Frank got a job at, I think it was Fannie, for a friend. And then he's, look at his role in all of this, or Chris Dodd's role in all of this, and friends of Angelo at Countrywide getting all these sweetheart, loans for themselves. Explain the connection between Congress and and these failing institutions?
It was of crucial importance that Fannie Mae be allowed to keep its very lucrative government perquisites. We were basically, taxpayers were backing it. If that went away, then the whole golden goose was cooked. So it was crucial for Congress to be co-opted, to be taken over, to be bought and paid for. And so that was what Jim Johnson did. Franklin Raines continued down that path. So you had basically anytime anyone criticized home ownership, anytime anybody said, whoa, wait a minute, what if maybe these are people who can't repay these poisonous loans, right? These toxic loans, you would be ridiculed, you would be steamrollered. They wrap themselves in the American flag of home ownership and dispel all critics.
You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in corruption. Why haven't more people done the investigative work that you have? This is a web. Look, tell me if I'm wrong. If this happened in the private sector, would people go to jail?
You know, the question of why no one has gone to jail in the financial crisis is one that, you know, we have been reporting on, and that is, I think, a conundrum for a lot of people. But this is especially damaging because the taxpayers are on the hook now for $150 billion, and the very people that we were supposed to be helping
they
got hurt the worst by this incredible, you know, partnership, quote unquote.
And it also helped jumpstart this slowdown in the economy. I mean, well, I got to tell you, a very informative, if you want to know about government corruption, well chronicled, and a lot of the people in Washington today were around then, including the two that I mentioned and more, many others. Anyway, great job, Gretchen. Appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, Sean.